Well, hello there. Have you ever watched an artist create a realistic portrait and wondered how do they do it so quickly? In this video, I'm going to show you my complete 20-minute sketch process from a blank sheet of paper to a finished portrait. I will explain every important decision that I make, including how do I simplify values, how do I find accurate proportions, and how do I achieve depth without getting lost on tiny details. If you ever struggle to make your charcoal drawings look more realistic, this process can completely change the way you draw. Before I draw a single feature, I'm looking for the biggest shapes. Beginners usually focus on the eyes, the noses, or the mouths too early, but realism starts with proportions. If the structure is wrong, no amount of beautiful shading will fix it. So at this stage, I'm thinking only about the overall head shape, angles, and placement. I already know that the angle of this young lady will cause trouble because she's really tilted. She has her head really tilted down and you can't see her eyes. Half of the face is involved in shadow. And unfortunately, if you only have 20 minutes to draw, you're not going to have enough time to making sure that angles are exactly correct. I know there are a lot of different drawing techniques out there that they show you how to do those, but I purposefully stay away from those because I think that if you learn those techniques and use them too strongly, they could limit your creativity. Again, this is just my opinion. But for me, I really like to stay away of too many techniques that could be limited and just base my drawing in pure observation. So the likeness will not be achieved completely in 20 minutes because you just simply don't have enough time. So what I'm shooting for here is to have an overall impression of this young girl, and hopefully will resemble to her somewhat, and a drawing that could be convincing on its own. So if somebody were to look at it without looking at the photo reference, they could say, oh, this is a pretty good sketch, pretty good light sketch, because it's not an involved drawing. There's only so much that you can do with 20 minutes. To get the proportions more or less correctly and find the features where they're supposed to be, I'm using a light version of the plumb level technique. And for that, I'm using the stick of Nitram charcoal that I have. I chose one that it was as straight as I could find it and long enough to be able to do so. So remember, the plumb level technique is finding horizontal and vertical lines of references to match against one another. But you can find that in other more involved videos that I make. These are all the supplies we're going to need for this drawing. Notice how I'm keeping my lines very, very light. And now I'm using the thicker charcoal stick, which is another one of the Nitram soft charcoal pieces, to very quickly mask the darks of the height. You're gonna have to forget the shakiness of the video because I am really pressing on the table where I have the stand for the phone. So bypass that, and like I was saying before, just mask up the head, the darkness that I see. And I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can possibly do that, because again, we only have 20 minutes, and I can already see obviously that the tilt of the head is not right. My head is a little too straight. She's a little bit more tilted to the left, but at this stage of the drawing, I can't change that because it would take me probably another 20 minutes to correct that. So I'm gonna call it good, and I just want to try to make a drawing that is convincing and it will stand on its own without being compared with the model too quickly. The model and this photograph is a guide. I need to let go of perfection here because it's not possible. Plus, it's not like anybody's watching anyway, right? I noticed that I masking the left part of the face with the dark because that is in shadow, and there's not going to be any details that you don't even see much in there unless you really open your eyes really wide, and that's not possible. Even the right eye that is on the light, she's looking down, so the shadows are making it to whether you don't see inside the eye very much. So I'm staying very broad and marking the nose the best I can. And notice that the charcoal stick is pretty rough, even though I kept the point as sharp as I could. Still is not allowing me to put any details in there, and that is why I chose this thick stick of charcoal instead of a smaller one, or even worse, the pencil. I'm not saying that the pencil cannot be used on an exercise like that, absolutely, but it will be a different one. This is just to force you to not look too closely and to make it impossible for you to add details. So it's like if you're on a diet, the worst thing that you want to do is have sweets in a cupboard or ice cream in the fridge, right? If you have them, more than likely you're gonna eat them. So how are you gonna stick to the diet? You just don't have it. So this is the same thing. If you don't have the pencil and you're sticking to the stick, there's no way you're gonna be able to do any details in there. So you're setting up yourself already to do the right thing from the beginning. So I quickly mark a little bit of the shape of the jacket that he's using, and I'm making sure that I don't spend too long there, because if I spend too long on that, then I won't have any time to do the features. But notice how I quickly use a little bit of the plumb and level technique. I'm just trying to figure it out horizontally where one line is in relationship to the other, basically where the right top part of the collar of the jacket was in relationship to the left side, because you can see that the left side is higher, but how much higher, right? So I'm marking the size of the hair now, and again adding a little bit more tones to the eyebrows. I continue to ignore the details because I'm only looking at light and shadow. Still, every realistic drawing begins with simple value masses, and I continuously squint at my reference photo because it removes distracting information and let me see only the important shapes. These dark areas become the framework for everything else. And notice how I keep the edges very loose. I don't add any edges yet at this stage because I really don't know where they are. I'm not certain, and I realize that I'm close to the middle of the 20-minute drawing, but I probably have about a couple more minutes until I start adding a little bit more secure marks. Okay, so now I am entering the second part of this drawing, and is when I'm starting putting more marks and details in there, and I'm working on the nose right now because the nose is mile zero, is right smack on the middle of the face. So after the nose, I work a little bit on the eyes, just refine them, and the eyebrows, and I work on the mouth. I know that the mouth, she has it slightly part, and obviously there's not going to be any teeth in there because you can't even see them, but I'm going to have to create the illusion of that. So far I haven't done it, and we'll see how we're doing it. So now that I'm at this stage, I am trying to build soft transitions and still avoiding outlines and working about turning points, where the chin is meeting the shadow and the ends at the edges of the face, and trying to add a little bit more value to it, because even the light areas will have a little bit of tones in it. Otherwise, there won't be any way that I will be able to build a highlight on it. Shadows create reality and depth. In drawing, the shadow tells you where the light comes from, how strong it is, and where the object stands in the world. The beauty of a drawing lies not in the lines you catch, but in the shadows you allow to breathe. And another quote from Albrecht Dürer, I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but is, "There is no form without shadow, for it is the shadow that carves the shape out of the void." But my favorite by far is the one from Leonardo da Vinci, because it can also apply to all areas of life. Without shadow, there can be no light. Without darkness, the eye cannot perceive the brilliance of the sun. Also, a little bit of an anecdote in here of my personal life. I shared birthdays with Leonardo da Vinci. We were both born on the same day. About that. Different year, obviously. Otherwise, that would make me a vampire, wouldn't it? I'm entering now the last part of this drawing, so now I'm starting refining the features a little bit more. And one of the biggest differences between beginner drawings and professional looking sketches isn't detail. It's about edge control. Not every edge should be equally sharp, and in sketches like this, actually, the edges should be most of them lost, except for a few keystrokes on the most important features. But you still need to have lost edges and sharp edges throughout, because that variation creates realism. Most of the lost edges would be close to the background, and the areas that are farther away from you. So in the case of this girl, it would be the back of the head. The back of the head. Think of the head as a bowl. So the back of it, the edges will be loose, because when you're looking at her, if you were to look at her straight on, only the V will be in detail, which the V is a term that I use for the mouth, the nose, and both eyes. You will be looking at that, and everything else will be seen with the peripheral vision. And I know 20 minutes is not enough to really pay attention to all that, but still it's important to keep that in mind, to make sure that none of the clothing and none of the hair, especially around the back, commands prominence, because otherwise the eye will go there. Therefore, those edges should all be lost, and the hardest edges you're gonna have is probably gonna be around the nose and the mouth, because those are the areas that you're gonna be looking at her the most, especially in this particular drawing where the eyes are in shadow. She has her eyes half closed, and there is a casting shadow there. So the eye will not go to her eyes. It's gonna go to the nose first, because it has the sharpest highlight there, and then it's going to move throughout the mouth. And those are the two areas where the attention needs to go. In drawing, edges describe how sharply two shapes, tones, or values meet. Controlling your edges is the secret to creating a sense of three-dimensional depth, controlling focal points, and making objects look realistic rather than flat. Artists generally break edges down into four main categories, ranging from sharpest to most blurred. Hard edges. A hard edge is a sharp, crisp boundary where one value abruptly switches to another. a sudden plane change or physical border. Where can we find hard edges? We can find them in cast shadow lines and in the silhouette of a sharp object, like a box corner, a building corner, or a knife, or where a dark foreground object overlaps a bright background. In practice, hard edges naturally grab attention first, making them excellent tools for defining your focal points. Now we have firm edges. A firm edge is a type but slightly less severe than a hard edge. It's sharp but possesses a tiny amount of graduation, a tight turn around a slightly rounded form. Where can we find a firm edge? In the bridge of a nose, for example. Now we have soft edges. A soft edge is a smooth, gradual transition from light to dark or from one shape into another. A gentle, slow curve or an out-of-focus surface. On a sphere, a soft cheekbone, a smooth cylinder, or objects in the background blurred by atmospheric perspective. In practice, created by blending your pencil or charcoal strokes to remove any hard definition. We have lost edges. A lost edge happens when the values of two touching shapes match so perfectly that the boundary between them disappears entirely. The edge is physically there but virtually invisible. Where do we find lost edges? The dark side of an object blending completely into a dark background shadow, or a bright highlight merging perfectly into a white backdrop. In practice, the viewer's brain automatically fills in the missing line. This prevents your drawing from looking like a flat coloring book outline and creates a highly realistic painterly effect. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support means a lot to me and help me make more videos like this. Now I am reaching the end and I'm adding only the darkest darks around the mouth and the brightest highlight, and then I will do that with a kneaded razor. It is tempting to keep working forever, but often these last few accents are all a drawing needs. So I'm trying to increase the contrast without overworking the paper, and I am limited to the 20 minutes. Charcoal can seem intimidating at first because it's too loose and forgiving, but that's actually its greatest strength. Focus on the big shapes first, then values, then edges, and finally the small accents. If you would like to see more real-time charcoal tutorials like this one, let me know in the comments what you would like me to draw next. I strongly encourage you to try this exercise at home. Get all your tools, including your reference photo, ready and set up a timer. It can be for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes like this one, or even 30 minutes. But keep it as short as possible and restrict yourself to only one piece of charcoal, preferably not in pencil form. And please let me know how they turn out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.